Cold wind swept across the ruins of the old battlefield, carrying with it the bitter scent of metal and ash. Cale pulled his cloak tighter and scanned the wreckage with wary eyes. The place had been silent for years, yet every shadow still seemed to whisper of the horrors that had happened here. His boots crunched over broken armor and scattered bones, reminders of a war no one liked to speak of. He was not here to remember. He was here to scavenge. A faint sound cut through the eerie stillness, so soft Cale thought at first it was the wind. Then it came again, a whimper, weak and trembling. He froze, hand on the hilt of his blade, and followed the sound through a tangle of twisted metal. Beneath a fallen transport, half buried in ash, lay a small creature. Its fur was matted with blood, and its golden eyes glowed faintly in the gloom. Cale's breath caught in his throat. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." He knew what it was. Everyone in the Empire did. A predator cub, one of the most feared species in the galaxy. These creatures were bred for war, their kind having slaughtered entire battalions in the last uprising. Even a cub was dangerous, and this one's mere existence was punishable by death. Soldiers still patrolled the outer sectors, hunting for survivors of its kind. If they caught Cale with it, both he and the cub would be executed on sight. The cub whimpered again, its small body shivering. Cale hesitated, torn between instinct and reason. He should walk away. He should leave the creature to die, just as the Empire had left the battlefield to rot. Yet something in its gaze held him still. The golden eyes met his own, not with malice, but with a silent plea. A harsh voice echoed across the ruins. "Search every wreck, leave nothing unchecked." Cale's heart lurched. Imperial soldiers, they were closer than he thought. He glanced down at the cub, then toward the rising sound of boots crunching over debris. His breath came fast and shallow. "Damn it," he muttered, dropping to his knees. He pulled the cub free, wincing as it whimpered in pain, and tucked it beneath his cloak. Its small body was warm against his chest, trembling but alive. A beam of light swept across the wreckage. Cale ducked low and pressed his back against the remains of a transport, holding his breath as soldiers passed just meters away. One paused, shining his scanner across the area. Cale could feel the cub's rapid heartbeat pounding against his ribs. Another soldier called. "Nothing here," the first replied. Moving on, only when the sound of boots faded into the distance did Cale dare to breathe. He adjusted his grip on the cub, who let out a weak sirring sound. "You're going to get me killed," he whispered. But there was no real anger in his voice. He made his way back to his speeder, hidden among the rocks. The cub stirred, opening its eyes fully for the first time. Cale saw intelligence there, sharp, calculating, almost unnervingly human. "What are you really?" he murmured, starting the engine. The machine hummed to life, and Cale sped away from the battlefield, leaving behind the ruins and the soldiers who hunted him. By the time he reached his hideout, run-down shelter on the far side of a desolate moon, the cub was unconscious. Cale set it on his makeshift bed and began cleaning its wounds. Deep gashes marred its flank, likely from shrapnel, but none seemed fatal. He worked quickly, trying to ignore the unease curling in his stomach. When he finished, the cub stirred. Blinking up at him, it made a soft, questioning sound. Cale sighed. "Don't look at me like that. I don't even know why I saved you." He hesitated, then added, "Guess I couldn't leave you there." He stepped back, studying the creature. Even injured, it radiated a quiet menace. Its claws were razor-sharp, its teeth gleaming even in the dim light. Yet when it shifted to a more comfortable position, curling up like an ordinary animal, Cale felt an unexpected warmth. The CUM device on his wall crackled. A voice came through, sharp and urgent. "Attention all sectors. Imperial Command has issued a red alert. A Predator heir is missing. It is believed to have survived the last purge. Substantial rewards for any information leading to its capture or termination." Cale froze. He turned slowly toward the cub, who was watching him intently now, its golden eyes unblinking. "An heir," he whispered. The cub tilted its head, as if understanding the word. A chill ran through Cale. If the Empire was right, this was no ordinary predator. This was the descendant of a line that had once threatened the Empire itself. Keeping it hidden would make Kale an enemy of the state. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. What have I gotten myself into? The cub let out a soft growl, almost a protest, and limped closer to him. Kale stopped, looking down at the small creature. Despite everything the danger, the fear he couldn't bring himself to push it away. Outside, a distant rumble shook the ground. Kale hurried to the window. Imperial patrols were sweeping the area. If they found the cub, it would be over for both of them. He turned back to the creature, who was watching him with those piercing eyes. Looks like we're in this together. Now, Kale said quietly, I hope you're worth it. The cub blinked once, slow and deliberate. As if in agreement, Kale began gathering supplies, moving quickly but methodically. If the Empire was already searching this sector, it was only a matter of time before they found his hideout. He packed food, weapons, and the few valuables he owned. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that the cub was studying him, learning him. When Kale slung the last pack over his shoulder, he turned to the cub. All right, little one, time to move. He hesitated, then added, I can't keep calling you cub, can I? How about Rin? Head, as if considering, then let out a soft sound that might have been approval. Rin it is, Kale said. He lifted the cub carefully and secured it against his chest. Let's get out of here before they come knocking. As he stepped out into the cold night, the stars stretched endlessly above them. Somewhere out there, the Empire was hunting, and Kale knew they would not stop until Rin was either captured or dead. He adjusted his grip on the cub, feeling its warmth seep through his clothes. Hang on, he whispered. We're not safe yet. Far behind them, in the shadows of the ruins, a silent observer lowered his scope. He activated his comm. Target acquired. The heir lives, and it's not alone. The message crackled through space, reaching Imperial ears. A cold voice replied, Bring them to me. Alive if possible, dead if necessary. Kale didn't know it yet, but the Empire's hunt had truly begun. Kale pushed his speeder to its limits as dawn painted the barren horizon in pale orange. The cold wind lashed his face, carrying sand that stung his eyes, but he did not slow down. Behind him, the Kubrin shifted under his cloak, making soft, restless noises. Kale risked a glance over his shoulder. No patrols yet, but he knew they would come. Imperial forces did not lose their prey easily. He guided the speeder off the main routes, weaving through jagged rocks and narrow canyons, searching for a place to rest and regroup. Rin stirred again, letting out a low growl that almost sounded like a warning. Kale frowned. Yeah, I know, he muttered. We're not safe anywhere. By midday, he found a shallow cave hidden beneath an overhang of black stone. He guided the speeder inside and killed the engine. Silence settled around them, broken only by the faint hum of the machine cooling down. Kale removed his cloak and set Rin down carefully. The cub limped a few steps before collapsing in exhaustion. Kale crouched beside it, checking its bandages. The gashes were healing, but slowly. He studied the creature's golden eyes, which tracked him with unnerving focus. You're tougher than you look, he murmured. Rin let out a soft trill, almost a reply. Kale found himself smiling despite the tension knotting his gut. Don't get used to this. We can't stay here long. He stood and scanned the cave entrance, every nerve on edge. Suddenly, Rin stiffened and made a sharp, guttural sound. Kale's hand shot to his blaster. What is it? A faint vibration trembled through the ground. Kale crouched low, pressing his ear to the stone. Engines distant but approaching. He scooped Rin up and pulled back into the shadows, heart pounding. Through a crack in the rock, he saw them. 2 Imperial scout bikes skimming low over the terrain. Kale held his breath as they paused near the cave entrance, scanners sweeping back and forth. Rin tensed, a faint growl rumbling in its chest. Kale whispered, she, quiet, tightening his hold. After what felt like an eternity, the bikes veered off, leaving only the fading echo of their engines. Kale exhaled shakily. That was too close. He set Rin down again and rubbed his temples. They're tightening the net. We can't keep running like this. Rin tilted its head, studying him. For a moment, Kale felt as if the creature understood every word. He sank against the cave wall, exhaustion weighing on him. You're going to get me killed, he muttered, though the words lacked any heat. Fell swiftly on the desolate moon. Kale made a small fire, careful to shield its light. Rin lay curled near the warmth, its breathing steady. Kale stared into the flames, mind racing. The come alert from earlier echoed in his thoughts. Predator, heir missing, substantial rewards for capture or termination. If that message was true, then Rin was more than a dangerous animal. The Empire feared what it represented: a future threat, a spark that could reignite rebellion. Kale leaned back, whispering to himself, "Why did I take you? I should have walked away." Rin stirred, lifting its head. Golden eyes met his, glowing faintly in the firelight. Kale swallowed hard. You're not just an animal, are you?" The cub blinked slowly, then made a sound soft, almost melodic. Kale frowned. It wasn't random, it was deliberate, a pattern. He shook his head, uneasy. "You understand me, don't you?" The only reply was another quiet sound, but Kale couldn't shake the feeling that the cub was trying to communicate suddenly. The night air split with the distant roar of engines, more patrols. Kale doused the fire and grabbed his gear. Time to move. He secured Rin against his chest and mounted the speeder. They rode through the night, the stars wheeling overhead. Kale's mind churned with questions. Where could he go? Every safe he had ever known was compromised. Every ally would turn him in for the bounty. Hours later, as the first hints of dawn touched the sky, Rin stiffened, ears pricking forward. The cub let out a sharp, commanding cry. Kale slowed, scanning the terrain. "What is it?" Rin wriggled free, leaping from his arms to the ground. The cub limped toward a jagged rock formation, pausing to look back at Kale expectantly. "Want me to follow you?" Kale muttered. "All right, but if this is a trap..." He followed the cub into a narrow crevice that opened into a hidden valley. A strange bluish light pulsed from crystalline formations scattered across the ground. Kale stared, awestruck. What is this place? Rin limped to a small pool of luminous water and lowered its head to drink. Kale crouched beside it, dipping his fingers into the cool liquid. The water tingled against his skin, leaving faint trails of light. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind, clear and commanding. "Guardian." Kale jerked upright, eyes darting around. "Who's there?" The valley remained silent, but the voice came again, stronger. "You saved me." Kale's gaze snapped to Rin, who was watching him intently. His mouth went dry. "That was you." The cub's eyes glowed brighter, and the voice resonated in his head once more. "I am Rin. You are my guardian." Kale stumbled back, heart hammering. "You can talk." "No, not talk. Think. You're in my head." Rin tilted its head, the glow in its eyes fading slightly. "Safe here. Empire hunts us." Kale ran a shaking hand through his hair. "I'm losing my mind," he muttered, but deep down he knew it was real. The cub wasn't just intelligent, it was communicating with him, choosing him. Before he could process the revelation, a sharp whine split the air. Kale spun, blaster drawn. Imperial drones swooped into the valley, their searchlights piercing the crystalline glow. "Run!" Kale shouted, scooping Rin into his arms. Blaster fire erupted around them, shattering crystals in a spray of sparks. Kale sprinted for the crevice, heart-pounding dot outside. More drones closed in their weapons. Locking on. Kale dove behind a boulder as laser fire scorched the ground where he had stood. "We're trapped." Rin wriggled free, landing on the ground. Its eyes flared gold, and a pulse of raw energy erupted from its small body, knocking the drones from the sky in a burst of searing light. Kale stared, stunned. What was that?" Rin turned to him, its voice in his mind calm and resolute. "Power they fear must leave now." Kale swallowed hard, adrenaline surging. Yeah, we're leaving." He grabbed the cub, vaulted onto the speeder, and sped into the rising sun. Behind them, the valley lay silent once more, the shattered drones smoldering. But far above, an Imperial command ship adjusted course. A cold voice echoed through its command deck. "The air is confirmed. Increase pursuit. The human will not escape again." Kale tightened his grip on Rin, the cub's heartbeat steady against his chest. "What have I gotten myself into?" he whispered. Rin's voice filled his mind, quiet yet unyielding. "Together, we survive." The desert moon stretched endlessly in all directions, its surface a harsh expanse of rock and sand. Kale guided the speeder through narrow ravines, following paths so old they no longer appeared on Imperial maps. Rin rested against his chest, its golden eyes half closed but alert, ears twitching at every distant sound. Kale couldn't shake the image of the valley from his mind, the glowing crystals, the pulse of energy that had destroyed the Imperial drones in an instant. He tightened his grip on the controls. "What exactly are you, Rin?" he muttered under his breath. A faint warmth brushed his thoughts. "I am Air, last of my line. They fear me." Kale winced. It still unsettled him, hearing the voice in his head. "They should. You leveled those drones like they were nothing." Rin's response was calm, not strong, yet need. Time to grow. "Safe for now." Kale's gaze swept the horizon. "Safe's not a word I'd use. We've got half the Empire looking for us." He veered off into a canyon and finally slowed, stopping beneath a jagged overhang that offered some shelter. Shutting down the speeder, Kale climbed off, his muscles aching from the long ride. Rin hopped down beside him, still limping slightly but steadier on its feet. Kale knelt to check the cub's bandages. "Healing well," he murmured. Rin blinked at him, then nosed his hand gently. He sat back, leaning against the rock. "We can't keep this up. Every jump we make, they're right behind us. We need somewhere they can't follow." Rin's gaze fixed on him, silent expanse. Dangerous, but hidden, they fear it. Kale frowned. The silent expanse. "That's just a myth. Even smugglers don't go near it." The cub's voice was steady. "Safe there. Trust me." Guardian Kale hesitated. He didn't like the idea of venturing into a place even the Empire avoided, but they were running out of options. "Fine, the silent expanse it is. But if we die out there, I'm blaming you." Rin made a sound that might have been amusement. As they prepared to move, Kale's cum unit crackled to life. He froze, pulling it from his belt. A familiar voice came through an old contact, Jareth, a black market trader. "Kale, you there? Listen, word's out. Imperial Command's offering triple bounty for the Predator Heir. They're calling you a traitor. Whatever you're mixed up in, ditch it. They're deploying hunters, now real hunters. You won't get away twice." Kale's jaw tightened. "Thanks for the warning, Jareth. I owe you one." He cut the connection before Jareth could reply. Rin tilted its head, golden eyes studying. "Him? Hunters?" "Yeah," Kale muttered. "The kind who don't miss." He mounted the speeder, motioning for Rin to climb up. "Let's move before they find our trail." They rode hard for hours, skirting patrols and cutting across unmarked terrain. The sun dipped low, staining the sky a bruised red. Exhaustion weighed on Kale, but adrenaline kept him sharp. Every so often he glanced behind them, expecting to see Imperial craft on their tail. As darkness fell, Rin suddenly tensed, ears flattening. Kale followed its gaze and saw a cluster of lights approaching fast from the west. He swore under his breath. "We've got company." A pair of sleek black hunter bikes crested the ridge, engines roaring. Their riders wore the distinctive armor of Imperial bounty hunters. Kale gunned the speeder, weaving through jagged spires of rock. Blaster fire streaked past, searing the air. "Hold on," he shouted, veering sharply into a canyon. The hunters followed, relentless. One rider drew alongside, aiming a rifle. Kale jerked the controls, slamming the speeder into the canyon wall. The hunter clipped the rock and spun out, his bike erupting in a fiery explosion. The second rider closed in, firing bursts that chewed into the ground around them. Kale returned fire, forcing the hunter to swerve. "We can't outrun him," Kale shouted. Rin's golden eyes flared. "I will handle." Before Kale could protest, the cub leaped from the speeder. It hit the ground running, a pulse of golden energy surging outward. The hunter's bike wavered as its systems overloaded, then veered wildly and crashed in a shower of sparks. Kale skidded to a halt, heart pounding. Rin trotted back, unharmed, its eyes dimming. Kale stared, stunned. "You just fried them." Rin climbed back onto the speeder, voice calm in his. "Mind. More will come. Must go." Kale swallowed hard and started the engine. Right, silent expanse. Here we come. By dawn, the terrain began to change. The rocky plains gave way to vast, swirling dunes of black sand. A strange, heavy silence hung over the land, as though even the wind dared not speak. Kale slowed. The speeder, is this it? The silent expanse? Rin nodded once. Yes, we are unseen here. Kale felt a shiver crawl down his spine. The expanse stretched endlessly, its shifting sands hiding secrets long forgotten. He had heard the story ships vanishing without a trace, strange lights moving in the darkness, voices whispering at the edge of hearing. We'd better hope the stories are wrong, Kale muttered, guiding the speeder deeper into the dunes. Hours, nothing moved but the wind and the sand. Kale's nerves were stretched taut. Even Rin seemed unsettled, its golden eyes flicking constantly to the shadows. As the second night fell, they stopped to rest beside a jagged outcropping, set up a small camp, keeping the fire shielded. Rin lay curled beside him, its breathing steady but restless. Kale stared into the flames. Why do they fear you so much, Rin? The cub's voice filled his mind, softer now, long ago. My kind ruled, empire feared our power. They killed us all. I am last. Kale rubbed his face, trying to absorb the weight of the revelation. So you're their nightmare come back to life. They fear what they cannot control, Rin said simply. Kale let out a bitter laugh. And now I'm part of it. Just my luck. Before Rin could respond, a sound drifted through the night-alow, mournful howl that made Kale's blood run cold. He leaped to his feet, blaster drawn. What was that? He whispered. Rin's golden eyes glowed faintly. Hunters, not imperial, ancient, dwellers of the expanse. They come. From the darkness beyond the firelight, shapes began to emerge, tall, sinewy figures with eyes that gleamed like molten silver. They circled the camp, moving with predatory grace. Kale raised his blaster, heart hammering. Rin, what are they? The cub's reply was calm, almost resigned. Old enemies they. Hunt all who enter. We must fight or die. The first creature lunged, and the desert erupted into chaos. Kale's blaster roared in the darkness, blue bolts slicing through the swirling sands of the silent expanse. The first of the silver-eyed hunters crumpled, but 3 more sprang forward, their movements blindingly fast. One swiped at Kale with a clawed hand, forcing him to dive and roll. Rin's eyes flared gold, a wave of energy pulsing outward and knocking to Hunter's back. More are coming, Kale shouted, firing again. The air was alive with shrieks and growls as the creatures closed in. Relentless and silent, save for the chilling sound of their movements. Move, Guardian. Rin's voice rang in his mind, urgent. We cannot hold them here. Kale vaulted onto the speeder, yanking Rin up beside him. The engine roared to life, sand whipping into a frenzy as he accelerated into the dunes. The hunters gave chase, their long limbs carrying them over the sand with terrifying ease. They're gaining, Kale shouted, weaving through the undulating terrain. He fired blindly behind them, scoring a few hits, but it barely slowed their pursuers. Rin leaped to the front of the speeder, golden energy coalescing around its small form. Brace yourself. A blinding flash erupted, a wave of force radiating outward and sending the hunters tumbling into the sands. Kale shielded his eyes, swerving to keep the speeder upright. When the light faded, the dunes behind them were empty. Kale let out a shaky breath. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Rin's reply was calm, but there was a note of exhaustion in its voice. They will return. We must find shelter. And answers. Hours later, they stumbled upon what remained of an ancient settlement, half buried in the black sands. Crumbling towers leaned at impossible angles, their surfaces covered in strange runes that pulsed faintly with an inner light. Kale guided the speeder into the shadow of a broken archway and shut down the engine. What is this place? He whispered, helping Rin down. Sanctuary, the cub replied, padding toward the largest structure. Old home of my kind. Empire never dared come here. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of age and dust. Faded murals covered the walls, depicting tall, imposing figures with eyes like Rin's. Kale traced one of the carvings with his gloved hand. Your people built this. Rin nodded. Yes, this was a cradle and a prison. Here lies the truth of why they fear us. Kale followed as the cub led him deeper into the ruin, eventually reaching a chamber dominated by a towering crystal pillar. As they approached, the pillar came alive, glowing with the same golden light as Rin's eyes. Suddenly, Kale's mind was flooded with memories not his own. Armies of Rin's kind standing against Imperial legions. Worlds burning, a desperate battle that ended in betrayal and massacre. Kale staggered, gasping. They wiped you out. All but me, Rin said quietly. I am last heir. Empire hunts me because I carry what they fear most, the bond. Kale frowned. Bond. Link between predator and guardian, Rin explained. Together, unstoppable. Alone, doomed. You saved me. Now we are bound. Kale backed away, shaking his head. I didn't sign up for this, Rin. I just pulled you out of a wreck. Choice was made the moment you saved me, Rin said, its gaze unwavering. Empire will never stop. To survive, we must fight. Together. A sudden tremor shook the ground, dust cascading from the ceiling. Kale spun, blaster drawn. Outside, the eerie silence of the expanse shattered as the silver-eyed hunters returned, their shrieks echoing through the ruins. They've found us, Kale muttered, checking his blaster's power cell. Any bright ideas? Rin's eyes glowed fiercely. Yes, the sanctuary can hide us, but only if we awaken its power. Kale swore under his breath. And how do we do that? Bond Rin replied simply. Trust me. Kale hesitated, then knelt, placing his hand on Rin's head. A jolt of energy surged through him, searing and exhilarating all at once. The crystal pillar blazed with golden light, and the runes on the walls flared to life. Outside, the hunters screamed as a wave of force erupted from the sanctuary, hurling them back into the dunes. The glow faded, leaving only silence. Kale collapsed to his knees, gasping. What was that? The Bond Rin said softly. Now we are one. Kale met the cub's gaze, breathless and shaken. I don't know what that means for me, but I guess there's no turning back now. Far above the silent expanse, an Imperial command ship intercepted a burst of energy. A cold voice echoed across its bridge. They have awakened the Bond. Deploy the Inquisitors. The heir must not escape. Kale looked toward the horizon, unease knotting his stomach. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing, with chilling certainty, the Empire would not stop until both of them were dead. Kale woke with a start, his heart pounding. The ruins around him were silent, bathed in the pale glow of dawn filtering through cracks in the ancient ceiling. Rin lay curled beside him, its golden eyes open and watching. The strange warmth of their bond pulsed faintly in Kale's mind, a steady presence that was both comforting and unsettling. He sat up slowly, muscles aching from the previous day's battle. We can't stay here, he muttered. If the hunters found us once, they'll be back. Rin rose gracefully to its feet, its injuries healing faster now. Yes, Empire comes. We must move before they seal the expanse. Kale gathered their gear, still trying to shake off the remnants of strange dreams, visions of battles and voices not his own. Ever since the Bond, fragments of Rin's memories slipped into his thoughts when he slept. The fall of Rin's people. The betrayal that had ended their reign, and the relentless fear that had followed. As they prepared to leave, the ground trembled faintly, a distant rumble echoing through the ruins. Kale froze. That's not the wind. Rin's gaze sharpened. Inquisitors they come. Kale's blood ran cold. He had heard stories of the Imperial Inquisitors, elite hunters, trained to root out the most dangerous threats to the Empire. Ruthless, relentless, and armed with technology far beyond standard patrols. How do they even know where we are? The Bond, Rin said grimly, they feel its awakening. It draws them like a beacon. Kale cursed under his breath and led the way back to the speeder. They shot out of the ruins, black sand whipping around them as they plunged deeper into the silent expanse. Behind them, dark shapes appeared on the horizon's sleek Imperial ships, closing fast. They're gaining, Kale shouted, pushing the speeder to its limits. Rin's voice was calm but urgent. Left into the storm. Kale squinted ahead. A wall of swirling black sand loomed, a violent storm that devoured the horizon. You're insane. They will not follow. Trust me. With a muttered curse, Kale veered into the storm. Immediately, visibility dropped to nothing. Sand tore at his face, the wind howling like a living thing. The speeder bucked violently as Kale fought to keep it steady. Through the bond, he felt Rin's presence, a steadying force guiding his movements. "Follow me, feel the path." Kale closed his eyes briefly, letting the strange connection lead him. To his astonishment, the speeder seemed to respond, skimming smoothly through the maelstrom. Minutes later, they burst through the other side into a calm, eerily quiet basin. The storm raged behind them, an impenetrable wall of black sand. Kai slowed, his hands trembling. That was too close. Rin leaped down from the speeder, scanning the surroundings. Safe for now, inquisitors cannot pass the storm. Kale slid off the bike, still catching his breath. "Where are we?" "Heart of the Expanse," Rin replied. "Place even my kind feared. But here, Empire cannot reach us. Yet, they set up a temporary camp near a cluster of crystalline spires. As Kale checked their supplies, Rin prowled the perimeter, golden eyes gleaming. The silence pressed in, heavy and unnatural. Kale finally sat beside the cub, breaking the stillness. "I need answers, Rin. What's so special about this bond that the Empire's willing to burn half the galaxy to stop it?" Rin's gaze met his. "Bond makes us one. My strength. Your will, alone, I would fall. With you, Empire fears what we could become." Kale ran a hand through his hair. "Great. So I'm basically holding a target big enough to make the Empire panic." "Not target," Rin corrected. "Hope for my people, for all hunted by Empire." Before Kale could reply, a flicker of movement caught his eye. A figure stood at the edge of the basin, cloaked and motionless. Kale grabbed his blaster. Heart leaping, the figure raised empty hands. "I mean you no harm," a voice called, distorted by distance and the strange acoustics of the expanse. Rin's mental voice was sharp. "Careful. I know this one. A watcher. They guard the old ways." Kale kept his blaster trained on the stranger as they approached. The cloak fell back, revealing a tall, gaunt humanoid with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly blue. "You carry the air," the watcher said, voice tinged with awe, "and the bond has awakened. The old prophecies speak of this." Kale didn't lower his weapon. "Who are you, and why shouldn't I shoot you where you stand?" The watcher inclined his head. "I am Thalon, last of the keepers of this place. I have awaited the return of the heir for many cycles. The Empire will not stop until you are both ashes, but here there is still a chance to turn the tide." Rin stepped forward, golden eyes blazing. "Speak, Watcher. Time is short." Thalon's gaze shifted to Kale. "The bond between you is incomplete. Without full awakening, the Empire will crush you. But if you embrace it, you may yet shatter their chains." Kale's grip tightened on his blaster. "And what does embrace it mean exactly?" Thalon smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "It means facing the truth of who you are, Kale, and deciding if you are willing to pay the price." Before Kale could answer, the storm behind them flared with unnatural light. Rin's voice rang in his mind, sharp with alarm. "Inquisitors. They breached the storm." Kale turned, dread pooling in his gut. "Guess we're out of time for explanations." Thalon's eyes gleamed. "Then the trial begins sooner than I feared. Prepare yourselves, the Empire comes." The black storm at the edge of the basin split open like a wound, spitting out sleek Imperial craft. Their hulls glowed faintly in the unnatural light, engines screaming as they cut through the unnatural calm. Kale's heart pounded, and his blaster was already in his hands. Rin's voice echoed in his mind, sharp and steady. "Inquisitors, stronger than hunters. They will not stop." Thalon, the Watcher, stepped forward, his cloak whipping in the sudden wind. "You cannot fight them with brute force," he said calmly. "Not yet. Follow me if you want to live." Kale hesitated. For a heartbeat, then cursed under his breath and grabbed the speeder. "Lead the way." The Watcher moved with inhuman speed, guiding them deeper into the basin. Rin clung to Kale's chest, its golden eyes flaring brighter as the bond pulsed between them. Behind them, the first Inquisitor craft landed, deploying armored figures whose presence seemed to warp the air itself. Kale risked a glance back. "They're faster than the hunters. We're not going to outrun them." "Then we must awaken what sleeps," Rin's voice said. laced with urgency, Thou led them into a cavern carved from the crystalline spires. The walls pulsed with golden veins of light, reacting to Rin's presence. "This place is the heart of the expanse," the Watcher said. "Only here can the bond be completed." Kale's breath came in ragged gasps. "And what happens if we don't?" Thalin's blue eyes met his. "You both die. And with you, the last hope of the Predator line." Outside, the Inquisitors closed in, their leader stepping into the cavern. Entrance, clad in black armor etched with crimson runes, the figure raised a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. "Surrender the air," the Inquisitor's voice boomed, metallic and cold. "The Empire offers a swift death to those who comply." Kale tightened his grip on his blaster. "Yeah, I'll pass." Rin leaped from Kale's arms, golden light crackling around it. The Inquisitor raised a gauntlet and unleashed a beam of searing energy. Rin countered with a pulse of force that rocked the cavern, but the blast barely slowed the enemy's advance. "Kale, now!" Rin's mental voice rang like a clarion call. Kale hesitated only a moment before dropping to one knee. Pressing his palm against Rin's head, the bond flared, a flood of golden energy surging through him. For an instant, Kale felt everything Rin's strength, speed, and fierce will to survive. Light exploded outward, filling the cavern with blinding brilliance. The first wave of Inquisitors was hurled back, their armor cracking under the force. Kale staggered, gasping, his veins alive with alien power. Thalin's voice cut through the chaos. "You have only tasted the bond. To wield it fully, you must trust completely yourself and the air." Kale gritted his teeth. "We don't exactly have time for trust exercises." Rin's voice pressed into his thoughts, urgent and fierce. "Trust me, Guardian, together." Another squad of Inquisitors charged, their weapons raised. Kale clenched his fists, golden energy gathering around them like living fire. For the first time, he didn't fight the bond, he embraced it. A shockwave tore through the cavern, obliterating the enemy ranks in a storm of light. When the glow faded, only scorched stone remained where the Inquisitors had stood. Kale collapsed to one knee, chest heaving. "Tell me, we killed them all." Thalin's expression remained grim. "You destroyed their vanguard." "But the Inquisitors are many, and the Empire now knows the bond is fully awakened. They will come with all their strength." Kale met Rin's gaze, the cub's golden eyes steady. Through the bond, he felt a thread of unshakable resolve. "We fight," Kale said hoarsely. "We run, we hide, whatever it takes, but we don't stop." Rin inclined its head, voice steady in Kale's mind. "Together, we survive." Above the basin, more Imperial ships descended, their lights piercing the storm. Kale gritted his teeth, holstered his blaster, and turned to Thalin. "You said there's a way to turn the tide." "I'm listening." The Watcher's gaze burned with quiet intensity. "There is a place where the bond can reach its true strength, but the path is deadly, and the cost, perhaps more than you are willing to pay." Kale stood, exhaustion forgotten, the weight of the Empire's wrath pressing down on him. "Point the way, because right now, running isn't going to cut it." Thalin nodded once. "Then your true journey begins into the shattered spire, where even the Empire dares not tread." Kale glanced at Rin, who leaped to his shoulder, golden eyes blazing. "Guess we're out of options," Kale muttered. "No," Rin replied, its voice steady in his mind. "We have each other. That is enough." And as the storm roared outside, Kale realized for the first time that he might believe it. Kale followed Phelan through twisting tunnels, carved deep beneath the crystalline basin. The air was cold and heavy, the walls glowing faintly with veins of gold that pulsed in time with Rin's breathing. Every step carried a sense of growing tension, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. "Where are we going?" Kale asked, his voice low. "The shattered spire," Phelan replied, his tone grave. "It was once the heart of my people's power, a place your bond can grow, beyond anything the Empire fears. But it was sealed for a reason. What sleeps there does not wake kindly." Rin leaped from Kale's shoulder and patted ahead, its golden eyes flaring brighter. "I know this place. Memory of my kind lingers, but danger comes." Kale tightened his grip on his blaster. "Danger's been following us since the day I found you." Hours passed in near silence until the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. Towering shards of crystal jutted from the ground like broken teeth. And at the center stood the shattered Spira-jagged monolith that seemed to hum with restrained power. The air around it shimmered faintly, distorting Kale's vision. Thalen stopped at the edge of the cavern. "This is as far as I go. The spire will test you both. Succeed, and your bond will become unbreakable. Fail, and it will consume you." Kale frowned. "That's not exactly reassuring." "It is truth," Rin said, stepping toward the spire. "We must face it." Guardian Kale hesitated, then followed. As they approached, the spire's hum grew louder, resonating in Kale's chest like a second heartbeat. He reached out, placing his palm against the cool crystal. The world dissolved. Kale stood in a desolate battlefield under a blood-red sky. Broken machines and twisted corpses littered the ground. Rin stood beside him, larger now, no longer a cub but a full-grown predator, its golden mane rippling like living flame. "This is the trial." Rin's voice echoed, deeper and stronger. "Face the truth of your fear, or be consumed." Shapes emerged from the crimson haze figures from Kale's past. Imperial soldiers he had fought beside, their eyes hollow with betrayal. Friends he had lost, enemies he had killed. They surged toward him, weapons raised. Kale raised his blaster, but his shots passed through them like smoke. Panic clawed at his chest. "I can't fight them." "You do not need to," Rin's voice boomed. "You must accept what was and choose what will be." Kale fell to his knees, the ghosts closing in. Memories flooded him, every choice, every failure, every regret. He reached out to Rin, their bond blazing. "I choose to fight for now." For us, golden light erupted, sweeping across the battlefield and scattering the phantoms. Kale gasped, stumbling back into the cavern. The spire pulsed with golden light, and Rin, still a cub, stood before him, eyes blazing. Through the bond, Kale felt their connection deepen, becoming something vast and unyielding. "You survived," Thalen said softly, though there was no relief in his voice. "The bond is whole. But now the Empire will feel its awakening. They will send everything." "They have," Kale steadied his breathing. "Then we'll be ready." Rin leaped onto his shoulder, its voice strong and sure in his mind. "Together we fight. Together we win." A distant tremor shuddered through the cavern, and Kale's gaze snapped upward. "What was that?" Thalen's expression darkened. "The Inquisitors have breached the basin. They are coming here, and they are not alone." Kale holstered his blaster, his pulse quickening. "Then we move. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." Above, in the swirling storm of the silent expanse, Imperial warships descended in force, their lights cutting through the black sands. The hunt for the air had entered its final stage. Rin's voice burned in Kale's mind, fierce and unwavering. "Guardian, it begins." The tunnels trembled as the roar of distant engines filled the underground air. Dust fell in soft clouds from the cavern ceiling, and Kale's pulse quickened. Rin stood tense at his side, golden eyes gleaming in the dim light. Through the bond, Kale felt its focused determination. There was no fear, only readiness. "They're close," Kale said, tightening the strap on his blaster. Thalen, the Watcher, turned to them. "The Inquisitors come not only with soldiers, but with war beasts, bred to hunt your kind heir. This fight cannot be won by fleeing. Here you must stand." Kale exhaled slowly. "Then we make our stand." Rin's voice filled his thoughts, calm but fierce. "Bond is stronger now. Trust me, and trust yourself." The first wave struck like a storm. Armored Inquisitors poured into the cavern, their crimson runes glowing in the dim light. Behind them lumbered hulking creatures with serrated jaws and armored hides that pulsed with dark energy. Kale fired first, each shot precise and deadly. Rin leaped from his shoulder in a blaze of golden light, moving faster than Kale's eyes could follow. The cub's small frame belied its power. Each strike of its claws sent ripples of energy tearing through enemy ranks. Through their bond, Kale felt every movement, every surge of strength. He ducked an incoming strike, pivoted, and fired into a beast's exposed underbelly, the bond guiding his aim. Left Rin's warning flashed through his mind, and Kale spun just in time to avoid a killing blow. They fought as one, the bond, weaving their actions into a seamless dance of survival. Yet for every Inquisitor they felled, more poured in, relentless and unyielding, at the cavern's heart. Thalen raised his staff, the crystal atop it blazing with blue light. A barrier shimmered into existence, halting the advance of a second wave. "I cannot hold them for long," he shouted. Kale gritted his teeth. "Rin, we need something bigger now." "Bond, deeper," Rin urged, golden energy flaring brighter around it. "Do not hold back, Guardian. Open yourself fully." Kale hesitated, fear clawing at him. The last time he had let the bond surge unchecked, the power had nearly consumed him. But now, with the enemy pressing in, he had no choice. He reached for the bond, not cautiously this time, but completely. Power roared through him, a tidal wave of golden fire that tore through his veins. Rin's voice was there, steady and strong, anchoring him. "Now." Kale roared, thrusting his hands outward. A massive shockwave erupted, golden energy sweeping across the cavern. Inquisitors were hurled back, their armor shattering, and the war beasts were reduced to smoldering husks. The cavern walls glowed with lingering light, and for a moment all was silent. Kale staggered, barely able to stay on his feet. Rin padded back to him, golden energy still crackling faintly along its fur. "You begin to understand," it said softly. Thal lowered his staff, the barrier fading. He studied Kale with something like, "Ah, the bond has awakened to its true form. But you have drawn the Empire's gaze more sharply than ever. Even now, they summon their greatest weapon." Kale wiped sweat from his brow. "I'm guessing this weapon makes the Inquisitors look like amateurs." Thalen nodded grimly. "The Archon, the Empire's champion. It has hunted and slain every heir before you." Kale met Rin's gaze, their bond thrumming with shared resolve. "Then we make sure it fails this time." Rin's eyes blazed. "Together we will." High above the silent expanse, aboard a massive Imperial dreadnought, the Archon opened. Its eyes, twin pools of burning crimson, flared to life beneath its ornate helmet as it stepped from its stasis chamber. A cold voice filled the command deck. "Deploy the Archon. The heir and its guardian must be erased from existence." Back in the cavern, Kale felt a shiver run through their bondrins, unease bleeding into him. "It wicks," Rin whispered in his mind. "The hunter of my kind. The end they once sent to kill us all." Kale steadied his grip on his blaster, then let it come. "We're done running." And somewhere deep in the expanse, the air itself trembled, as if the world knew the final hunt had begun. The air in the cavern grew heavier, charged with a presence that made Kale's skin crawl. Even the crystal walls seemed to dim, as if retreating from what was approaching. Rin pressed closer against Kale's leg, its golden eyes bright but tense. Through the bond, Kale felt an emotion he hadn't sensed before. Thalen's voice was hushed, almost reverent. "The Archon has crossed into the expanse. Even the storms bow to its will." Kale tightened his grip on his blaster. "You're saying the thing hunts us without even breaking a sweat?" "Not hunts," Thalen corrected. "Eradicates." Rin's voice cut into Kale's mind, calm and steady despite the fear Kale felt in it. "We face it together, Guardian. No turning back." Kale nodded once. "Then we make our stand." They left the cavern for the open basin, the sky above swirling with unnatural light. At the far end, a figure emerged from the storm. The Archon was tall, clad in obsidian armor etched with crimson veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Each step it took left scorched impressions in the black sand. Kale raised his blaster. "That's it. One person." Thalen's expression hardened. "One is enough. That suit carries the strength of an army, and within it is the Empire's most ruthless killer. Every heir that lived long enough to awaken, the bond died by its hand." The Archon stopped, its helmet tilting slightly as if studying them. A deep, distorted voice rolled across the basin. "The last heir and its chosen guardian. You have run far enough. Neil and I will make your end quick." Kale's heart pounded, but he forced a grin. "Yeah, I'm not really the kneeling type." The Archon raised one gauntlet hand, and a blast of crimson energy streaked toward them. Kale dove aside, pulling Rin with him as the ground where they'd stood erupted in a violent explosion. "It's fast," Rin warned, its voice taut in Kale's mind. "We must strike together." Kale fired, bolts of plasma hammering against the armor. They splashed harmlessly, absorbed by a shimmering energy field. The Archon advanced, each stride unnervingly precise. Rin leaped forward, golden light blazing. The Predator Cub's strike met the Archon's guard in a clash that sent shockwaves rippling across the basin. Kale felt the impact through the bond, the sheer power of the Archon nearly overwhelming them both. "Rin!" Kale shouted, diving to the Cub's side as the Archon's counterattack sent it skidding across the sand. Rin rose, golden energy crackling along its fur. "Stronger than I remember," Rin admitted grimly, "but not invincible." Kale gritted his teeth, feeling the bond's pulse through his veins. "Then we push harder." They moved as one, Kale's shots driving the Archon back a step at a time, while Rin darted in with golden claws that flared with each strike. Still, the Archon adapted quickly, its counterstrikes forcing them onto the defensive. Fallon raised his staff, sending arcs of blue energy to shield them briefly. The Archon was made to kill heirs. You must find the flaw in what it has become. Kale ducked another crimson blast, mind racing. Through the bond, he felt Rin's focus sharpen to a single blazing point. "Guardian, trust me. Let go." "What does that even mean?" Kale shouted, but before he could protest further, Rin sprang onto his shoulder. Golden energy surged, flooding Kale with alien power until his vision burned with light. For a heartbeat, he and Rin were one thought. Movement and power merged seamlessly. The Archon lunged, its blades sweeping down in a crimson arc. Kale met the strike with a shield of golden force, the impact rattling through his bones, but holding firm. This is what the Empire fears. Rin's voice roared in his mind. Guardian and heir as one. Together they counterattacked, a torrent of golden energy engulfing the Archon. For the first time, its armor cracked, fragments of black plating scattering across the sand. Its distorted voice growled, "You are stronger than the others, but it will not save you." Kale leveled his blaster, golden energy still crackling along his arms. "We'll see about that." The Archon's visor flared blood red and, with a roar, it unleashed its full power, the basin trembling under the force. Rin's voice pressed into Kale's thoughts, fierce and urgent. "One chance, Guardian. All or nothing." Kale set his jaw. "Then let's end this," and with the storm raging around them, they hurled themselves into the Archon's final assault. The Archon charged, its obsidian blade slicing through the storm-lit air, leaving trails of crimson fire in its wake. Kale met the attack head-on, the bond blazing through him like a living sun. Golden energy flared around his body, power surging with his own, each heartbeat echoing as one. The first clash shook the basin. Sand turned to glass beneath their feet as Kale parried the blow with a shield of searing light. The Archon reeled back, crimson power sparking wildly across its fractured armor. "Now, Guardian." Rin's voice thundered in Kale's mind. "Strike where it breaks." Kale lunged, firing a bolt of concentrated energy straight into the exposed gap in the Archon's chest plate. The shot pierced deep, and for the first time, the Empire's champion faltered. A guttural, distorted roar tore from its helmet as its systems overloaded, crimson light spilling from a web of cracks across its armor. But the Archon didn't fall. With terrifying speed, it unleashed a wave of raw energy, hurling Kale and Rin. Across the basin, Kale crashed into the crystalline wall, pain lancing through his body. Rin landed beside him, golden eyes blazing with unyielding resolve. "It's not enough," Kale gasped, forcing himself upright. "Then give everything," Rin replied. "You must trust the bond fully, no fear, no doubt." The Archon advanced, each step shaking the ground. Through the bond, Kale felt Rin's fierce will. No hesitation, no retreat. Kale closed his eyes and let go. Power erupted, unshackled and wild. Golden light engulfed them both. The bond no longer a thread, but a roaring river, flowing between man and predator without limit. Kale and Rin moved as one, their combined energy shaping itself into a blazing spear of light. With a cry that was both of their voices, they hurled the spear straight into the Archon's core. The impact tore through the champion's defenses. Crimson light exploded outward in a cataclysmic wave, the shock wave rattling the entire silent expanse. When the glare faded, the Archon stood frozen for an instant, then collapsed, its armor disintegrating into shards of blackened metal. The basin was silent. Kale stood gasping, every muscle trembling as Rin padded to his side. Through the bond, he felt the cub's exhaustion mirroring his own, but beneath it burned the fierce satisfaction of survival. Thalen approached slowly, his expression a mixture of awe and relief. The Archon is no more. The Empire has lost its greatest hunter. Kale wiped blood from his brow. They'll send more. They will, Thalen admitted. But word of this victory will spread. Worlds that once cowered will rise. Bond, you share? It is more than a weapon. It is hope. Rin leaped onto Kale's shoulder, golden eyes gleaming. They will come again, Guardian, but we will be ready. Kale managed a tired grin. Yeah, together. High above the silent expanse, aboard an Imperial dreadnought, silence filled the command deck. The Archon signal had gone dark. An officer turned, pale and shaken. Commander, the air survived. The cold voice that answered was laced with fury. Then, unleash the fleets. Burn the expanse to ash if you must. The air and its guardian will not escape. Kale gazed at the storm-choked horizon, the bond pulsing steady and warm. He knew the Empire's wrath would only grow, but for the first time, the path ahead felt clear. We're not done yet, he murmured. This is just the beginning. Rin's voice filled his thoughts, unwavering. Yes, Guardian, our fight has only begun. And together, beneath the fractured sky, man and predator turned toward the endless expanse, ready to face whatever came next.